for the people of Zimbabwe, because our social and economic conditions have taken the shine off this great moment, particularly in the context of the celebration that goes around the world. We face the bleakest and the harshest Christmas season, when men will go hungry, even livestock are dying in the countryside. Only a few people in government seem to be surviving and living, thriving on corruption, because a broken system is in the habit of benefiting a few who are in authority. But our country, Zimbabwe, is no stranger to such times. Zimbabwe is one of the greatest nations on earth, blessed with God, with a population that has the best brains on the planet. This is our country, a country that the world cannot and cannot afford to ignore. Yes, this is our country, a beautiful country that is an educated, peace-loving population. In difficult situations, the people of Zimbabwe have always managed to rise to the occasion. That is why we have populated the rest of the world, the various capitals of the world. All in all, not only are we proud, we are able. Not only are we able, we are competent. Not only are we competent, we are smart. For that reason, we are going to make the impact across the whole world. Very soon, when change finally comes, you will see what we are made up of. We have stood our own in the past, and we continue to do the same in the region and the world, and we have never been beaten by anyone. No matter how big, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are, we never play second class and will never be defeated. All you know about our people is the shining that we have seen. But in all these circumstances, fellow countrymen, our country in Zimbabwe has been subjected to incessant abuse, human rights-wise, governance-wise, and as we speak, life in Zimbabwe for all of us, including the police, the army, and some who are in the ruling party, life is hell on earth, particularly in the context of our circumstances. You know that as a result of corruption, bad governance, human rights abuses, failed reforms, we are now isolated again. This is in the context of just about 24 months ago, when we had unbelievable and incredible goodwill. I was recently in Sweden, in Europe. I was so amazed at the amount of goodwill. All we need is to ignite that goodwill through our good conduct, in good governance, effective leadership, accountable and responsible leadership that we have to provide. The international community has always wanted to assist us. Investors have always wanted to come. The world always wanted to do business with us. But we have just proved that we are not ready for business. We are not good for business. Indeed, we are not open for business. The reason being our toxic politics, our politics of vengeance, our politics of anarchy and chaos, our politics of butchering citizens, our politics of hating one another. That is the reason why our country cannot be a good candidate for the family of nations coming together to assist us. We are all but yes under pressure again from the United States of America, the EU, and the whole world, including internally from our own citizens, for reform and for change. The reason being that you cannot stop an idea whose time has come. There is no doubt that the time for change has come. This time is evident and well written in the corridors of government. It is well written in the corridors of our communities and our streets. It is well written in our villages. It is well written even in our churches and our gatherings. We need change, and change must come. Change is coming. You are aware, fellow countrymen, that on the 1st of August in 2018, our fellow citizens were gunned down. I saw the same scenes today. As I entered Harvest House, I was shocked to see the behavior and conduct of the police. And I don't believe that they are police officers. I have every reason to believe that these are people who are just armed in uniform to try and disguise so that they prove to you that they are police, but they are not. Their conduct does not show people who have been trained, does not show people who have benefited even from the regional effort, especially South Africa, through the human rights training that was done to our various police officers. I saw, and I've just received a report that Vincent Tsvangirai has been hurt and was injured, and many others who were just going by, doing their business. What tells you is that we are in a rogue regime. What tells you is that we are in a pariah state, a banana republic. And this is what is very clear. Even members of parliament are stripped of their honor. They do not acknowledge that we have honorable members of parliament. Who are the legislators? Who are the people who are responsible for allocating resources to our police? Who are responsible for allocating our resources to the state? That all goes away. But more honorable are the citizens who are responsible for deploying honorable members of parliament to parliament. We can see the way they were treated. It tells you that we have a big problem, and that problem has to be dealt with in a big manner. Now, let me just say, a lot of you are in despair. Wherever you are carrying the burden to say, is there going to be change in this country? This is the telltale signs of a regime that is collapsing. When you see a regime that is so scared of its own people, you must know that the end is nigh. When you see a regime that resorts to force, you must know that legitimacy is evaporating. When you see a regime that is so determined to keep our police officers on the streets, you must know that there is now a vacance in their scope of imagination on the future of our country. I've heard of your cries. I've listened to war veterans. I've listened to army people, people in uniform. When I meet them in shops, I've listened to police officers even. I've listened to workers who work in government, civil servants. All I hear are cries for change. I've listened to victims of flood, particularly in Manicaland when I went to Chimanimani recently. I've heard cries in Lupane, in Bedbridge, Bindura, Kwekwe, gold banners in Kwekwe, cotton farmers in Slovela, those in Marondera. All they want to see is a better Zimbabwe under a better leader. And that better leader is the one who is addressing you at this particular moment. These ordinary men and women do not need anything. All they need is a better Zimbabwe. A country that needs all of us and everyone being respected for who they are. And this is the country that they wanted to see. But we are aware that in 2017, when there was military intervention in this country, there was hope across the whole country. In Buhera, Chiendambuya, Zarabani, Kezi, Beluchena, people hoped for change. But what it has proved is that nothing has changed. We are still back to the old days. If anything, Mr. Mugabe is now looking like a small boy when it comes to the manual of dictatorship. Mnangagwa has scaled new levels of dictatorship, literally showing that he was indeed the man behind the dictatorship we have seen in this country. He is simply the dictator who must be. Yes, fellow countrymen, our country is burning. You are aware of the problems, which I'm not going to enumerate. You meet the problems every day. Absence of water, blackouts every day. You are aware of fuel queues. In fact, our people are undergoing a soft genocide in this country. I've told a few hospitals, and recently many hospitals, including Harare, Pilo, and also Parenyako. I've seen that our doctors have now gone into their 80th day of a strike. No serious government would fail to address the plight of doctors under very serious circumstances. If I were the one, I would have literally left everything. No private jet, no flying to Dubai, no banquets, all man to the doctors, because doctors define our life. An attack on our health is an attack on the nation. The security of a nation is in the security of our health. If our health system is attacked, what it means is that all of us are vulnerable. But I suppose they don't see the difference because they get treated in 5-star hotels, 5-star hospitals across the whole world. That's why they choose to go to Dubai for treatment. That's why they choose to go to China for treatment. But a lot of our citizens cannot even afford to go to Messina for treatment. This is why we must correct the situation and pay our doctors. Pay our doctors in hard foreign currency. They will say, but where are you getting the money? Where are you getting the money? You don't fly a jet using bond notes. You fly the jet using US dollars. Let's divert that money. Let's get our priorities right. That is the way we must go. That is the situation we find ourselves in. Fellow countrymen, I must say that it cannot be business as usual. We cannot continue to put solutions for tomorrow and future generations. We cannot avoid very hard decisions about to be made in terms of the new disruptive consensus we must make. The first thing we must understand as a matter of agency is that we are already embarking on placing the citizens at the center. They've made a mistake in characterizing the struggle in this country as an MDC struggle. ZANU-PF must know that the struggle in Zimbabwe is not a partisan struggle. It is a people's struggle. It is a citizen struggle. And the people must be at the center of that struggle. And it has to be a struggle for a transformational consensus that will vindicate and salvage our hitherto exhausted narratives, namely the narratives on liberation and the narratives on democratization. And let me just emphasize the point. We all had a national consensus in this country around the liberation consensus, wherein we had to mobilize everyone. People had to come together across class divide to liberate themselves. That narrative was a narrative that united both the urban and the rural people. This narrative we are now embarking on is a narrative that is building upon a hijacked and a waylaid struggle of democratization. That's why we are saying in the transformation consensus phase, we are building on the democratization and the liberation consensus phase. And what are the key issues that have to be focused on? The first one is a common vision and a binding glue that will make Zimbabwe move and tick. At this moment, we have Mr. Mnangagwa's vision. We have a ZANU-PF vision in government. That is but a partial vision of Zimbabwe. A holistic and a total vision of this country must include all the pieces in the country. And that requires national dialogue, that requires national consensus, that requires national consultation. Yes, we must have nation building and national healing and transitional justice. We have too many skeletons, too many issues that have been left unattended to. If we don't address Gukurahundi, the country cannot move forward. There can't be peace in Rwanda. There can't be peace in Zimbabwe until we resolve Mrambachi, until we resolve Gukurahundi, until we resolve those who have been injured by our omissions and commissions of the past. That is where the country should go. And this requires an honest and frank discussion in the country around how to build a country, around how to have a leader, not a ruler. The problem is that Zimbabweans have been going to elections to choose a leader, but they end up with rulers. And this is because our systems are perforated and they need to be addressed. They are ruptured and they need to be corrected. We need to deal with underdevelopment and unemployment, particularly in the rural areas. You know, I see that this cause has not even begun to address the key issue around 98% unemployment we must deal with in the country. We had a plan. We have a plan. I see now my colleagues in government are borrowing from the SMART document. I was told last time that they are proudly even saying we are going to copy the ideas from the MDC because that is the source of ideas. We have no problem with being copied. We have a problem with being copied wrongly, especially when they copy us in a wrong way and implement the smart agriculture upside down and begin to just say, oh yes, we have removed command agriculture, now we have smart agriculture. We have a problem. When we say we have removed command government, we now have smart government. When in fact, the police officers you see out there, they are all in the command framework. Why would you beat people who are at their head office? Is MDC a banned party? Are we a prohibited organization? If you tell us that we are a prohibited organization, tell us. Then we can look at other methods that are used by banned organizations. But don't lie to us that we are not banned when you are treating us as a banned organization. Yeah. Time is coming for us to draw a line in the sand. We have to draw a line in the sand. No one has the monopoly of doing things alone. We can also democratize that which they think is their monopoly. We have the capacity. We have the capacity to flex our muscles and flex our power. But we have not done that because we believe in giving peace a chance. And giving peace a chance is not a weakness. Giving peace a chance is actually a sign of strength, because it's usually cowards who use violence. But strong people use peace methods because they know that peace is simple and peace gives hope to all the people. Let me say, as your president, the people's president, your Nelson Chamisa, I stand ready to push and execute the actualization of what I call the transformation consensus. This is an African consensus. It's a new African consensus. That's why you see young leaders emerging on the continent, because the continent is crying out loud for a new consensus. In South Africa, in Uganda, in Rwanda, the new consensus is forming. So is it in Zimbabwe. And I want to tell you that we will usher a new Zimbabwe that we deserve and merit. Once that is done, an ethical, consultative, responsible, and a consensus state will then emerge. And no one will live in fear. No one will be scared of the police officer. No one will be stopped from demonstrating. If I were Mnangagwa, I would actually escort the MDC in their demonstration and allow them to bring a petition to wherever they are supposed to bring. That way you show that you are indeed a different animal and a different creature. But he has shown that it's difficult for old habits to die. Die hard, old habits do. They don't easily die. That's why you see it goes back to the script of tyranny. It goes back to the script of dictatorship. And that's why it is important for us, as we address the issues that are affecting our people, we move forward. Yes, I've looked at the situation in the country. We've seen an escalation of treason trials. 21 members are under a treason charge. Under Mugabe, I think the largest figure we had was 5. Job Scala, treason trial. Charlton Wende, treason trial. Joanna Mamombe, treason trial. Chikwinya, treason trial. Chibaya, treason trial. I could go on and on. What does it tell you? It tells you that nothing has changed in Zimbabwe. It's still the old story. There has not been any change. Civic activists are in trouble. Doug Coulthard terrorized another day. Gonyet terrorized another day. That comedian. Journalists being bastardized. I saw some journalists being beaten up today, which is something that I don't understand. Even in Iraq, even in Syria, which are difficult places, you don't beat up a journalist. But in this country, these things happen. Trade union leaders, you have seen what has happened to Peter Mtasa, Japhet Moyo, to our guy who is from Arutus, Obed Masaraure. They've all been subjected to incessant harassment. The regime has arrested lawyers, vendors. You know what happened to Hilton Tamangan? Comedians, parliamentarians, trade unionists, everyone has been harassed. There is not a single Zimbabwean without a charge sheet against this regime. If it is not a charge sheet to do with water supply, it is a charge sheet to do with electricity. If it is not to do with electricity, it has to do with fuel. If it is not to do with fuel, it has to do with your own money that disappeared. I'm being told that I want now to go back to the dollarization. So why did you cheat people and say we are now moving away from dollarization to go into a one-on-one, a parity comparison of the US dollar and the bond? It tells you that we have criminals who have captured the state. It is criminal when you take 2% of the people and you don't even apologize when the court declares that it was illegal. So Zimbabweans must actually be compensated and be reimbursed their money that was taken through those transactions that were illegal. We've seen the abductions that we've seen, freedom of assembly, the issue of the media, which is a big issue. In fact, the media in Zimbabwe is in the intensive care. It is in the intensive care because you only have almost 40 years after independence. You have one television station. It's unheard of. I was in Uganda recently. They have more than 68 radio channels. Television stations you can't even count. But what do you have in Zimbabwe? The only one. And you know what I mean. So the language is understood. We must open the airwaves. We must make sure that we allow more players to play a credible, quality, and perhaps a good and effective media role to communicate with our people so that we're able to move. Now, I know a lot of you would want me to touch on the issue of education, the issue of land, but I will not do that because I just want to go to what the hope is all about. I know you have come here. I know people who are listening in Cholocho, who are listening in Rwanda. They want to hear what is the message of hope that is coming. Change is coming. You can count. It's not going to be months. Look at me in the eye. Change is coming. In fact, change has come. But it is going to come when we choose as a people to understand that the struggle is not an MDC struggle. The struggle is a people's struggle. So that everyone is able to say, this is no longer about ZANU-PF or MDC or any other political party. This is about our common survival. The common denominator being our country. And we must be able to seize the opportunity to liberate ourselves. And this is what we are going to be embarking on in the coming days. When you see police officers on the street, then you must know that the end is nigh. They cannot sustain force, because force cannot be a permanent instrument. It has never happened. It will never happen. You know of what happened in Ceausescu, Romania, Khmer Rouge. You know what happened with all dictators. When they abuse the police and overuse the police, they are giving you warning signs and warning bells of the change that is about to come. So please, get ready for the change. Get ready for the change, people of Zimbabwe. Don't worry about the hardships. This is the darkest hour before dawn. But we need to organize ourselves. We need to make sure that we work on what has to be done. We also need our country to move away from being isolated internationally. I was amazed, like I indicated, the amount of support that we have as a people. Assuming that we wake up tomorrow, the MDC is in government, I want to tell you, we will not have to travel far afield. Resources will come here because people always come to good politics. Mr. Mnangagwa must be assisted. Good politics attracts good business. Without good politics, you cannot have good economy. Fix your politics in order for you to fix your economy. If you don't fix your politics, don't think that you have the monopoly of dictating the course of events in a country. That's why I told him that as a way forward, let's negotiate. Not for a GNU, but for sharing the vision, the union of ideas, and where we are going. We don't want to be a GNU. We want a transitional authority, which is a transitional authority to just prepare the comprehensive reforms that are going to then usher in a new dispensation. We don't want to share power. When you share power with those who want to steal it away, you lose it. And we will never share power because for us, the objective is not power, the objective is real transformation for you and for all of the people in Zimbabwe. So yes, to our brothers and sisters in South Africa and SADC, we are so excited that the statements coming from Pretoria are clear and very straight to the point on the situation we have in Zimbabwe. I salute and celebrate the recent statement from South Africa, very consistent. We have said we want African solutions to African problems. But we can't be Pax Afro if we are not able to come up with our own solutions as African people. And I'm glad that South Africa, FLAIT, they've indicated very clear that the crisis in Zimbabwe is a governance crisis. It is a legitimate crisis. Yes, sanctions are a symptom of those crises that are multi-layered, governance, leadership. Once you fix your governance and your politics, there will not be a pimple of sanctions. Don't focus on the pimple of sanctions if you are not addressing the material cause of your sickness. That is what we call being a dandite. Is politics stupid? The elephant in the living room for us remains politics. Let's fix our politics. Let's resolve our politics. But when we resolve our politics, we then deal with the issues of reforms around electoral reforms. We've given a raft of reforms that are supposed to be there. I've seen that Parliament passed MOPA. MOPA is worse in draconianness and in apartheidness than POSA, than Law and Order Maintenance Act. If anything, through MOPA, we have a worse version of POSA. We have to think about the Mugabe days. They were even better than the days under ED and MOPA. It is a disaster and a disaster for this country. That law is a draconian law. The first thing we must do is to repeal POSA, to repeal MOPA. MOPA has now come disguised as a new reform, and they've disguised it across the whole world as a reform, which it is not. And this is why it's important that as we talk about reforms, which are going to be contained in our statement, we'll be able to then address those fundamental reforms in a big way. This nation needs national healing and consensus. We are a divided country. We are suffering from hatred, fatalism, even in soccer. There's too much division. Even in our churches, there are divisions. In our families, there are divisions. Why? It cascades from the state of our politics. And this is why we are asking for SADC to scaffold the process in Zimbabwe, to come together and have a national dialogue, a dialogue that is genuine and proper, not Pollard. Pollard is a sideshow. We must have the main show. The main show is the dialogue between ZANU-PF and MDC, and then include every other citizen in the way forward that we need to see. That's why we have said to Mr. Mnangagwa, let us have this dialogue. If you are not willing to have dialogue, we will cause you to have dialogue. How are we going to cause you to have dialogue? You will see what we are going to be rolling out in the time to come, because we are already laying a framework. Oh, forget about this brutality by the police. These are temporary things. They can't kill every Zimbabwe. They can't kill all of you. They can only do so much, but change will have to come. And that is the focus we are going to do. That's why we are saying in terms of the economy, fixing it, yes, is important. I'll not go into the details of our economy because I've already touched on a number of issues that we need to work on around debt strategy, around issues of making sure that we do what has to be done in gross capital formation, dealing with our social services that have collapsed. We have seen the burden that the women have had to bear. Very much suffering. But this is because of the situation in our hospitals. This is also because of the level of corruption that is in this country. Corruption, corruption, corruption. Why would you justify 95 million disappearing into the pocket of one person? In the case of Zinara, 75 million. In the case of the Commander Agriculture, something that was siphoned outside public accountability, 3.3 billion. And I must say that our Public Accounts Committee has done a fantastic job to expose those problems, particularly in Parliament. Yes, we've seen the kind of corruption that is in the country, especially the cartels that have hijacked the state. Let me then say, having said all the issues that we are facing, what is to be done? We've always insisted that our economic problems are in the political domain. This is where we have always been, and this is where we must be sorting out things. There is a legitimate deficit in this country arising out of the 2018 disputed election. Yes, Mr. Mnangagwa can choose to then engage the whole world. But if he has not engaged Zimbabweans, there will not be any solution. There will not be any answer. You know that when our elections have not been solved in terms of their credibility and fairness, there's not going to be an answer in terms of what we want. How do we then move? I have the following, which I'm making to Zimbabwe as the path to move forward. Number one, we must all agree and have a national consensus on the nature and character of our problem. Mr. Mnangagwa and his team, they say sanctions. We say it is governance. It is politics stupid. So we have to come together on the definition of the problem. Once we have done that, we need to take cognizance of the primacy of our political interventions. Without resolving our political challenges, the economic efforts will be futile. That I can say, and I will say it again. So we need an inclusive, genuine dialogue that will focus not only on the causes of the polarization, but also that will look at the agenda that is clear by all protagonists. I've heard people saying, yes, President, we hear what you are saying. We must embrace and institute political reforms, deepen our democracy. But where is the solid foundation if Mnangagwa is not willing to come and negotiate? I've said, if Mr. Mnangagwa is not willing to negotiate, he will be forced to negotiate. And with the circumstances, with the power, with the authority, we have our constitutional means. Some have said, but you are applying to police and they are not giving you permission. it is just that phase when we have to ask for permission. It will come to a point where permission will not be asked from anyone, but it becomes inevitable that everyone has to do what has to be done. And that time is coming. That time is coming, it's not far away. And we are already preparing ourselves for that time when the people of Zimbabwe will have to speak with one voice. Not a partisan voice, not an MDC voice, but a voice of the people. And that voice is coming. Yes, we are going to leverage our continental integration. I didn't even touch on what we are already doing to prepare our fourth industrial digital readiness as a country. What we are already doing around issues of artificial intelligence. Because we are smart in leadership. We are already advanced, because if we don't have a national digital plan, we are going to be left behind. That's why you have this analog leadership far behind in where they are supposed to go. Because they have not embraced and adopted the digital mindset and the digital dispensation we need in this country. And this is where we are going. A clear policy on the diaspora, a clear policy on the reforms of the elections, a clear policy particularly on making sure that our people in the diaspora are coming in to help us and have this transitional mechanism, which transitional mechanism is supposed to be for a short period with bankables under international and global underwriting, which has to be done by those in the international community. Honorable members of parliament, distinguished leadership, dear and fellow countrymen, I want to tell you that I've traversed this country. I've seen great hope and deep passion. The reason why people continue to support and have hope for change is because they know, young and old, men and women, boys and girls, that their future is at stake. They know that it's only possible for us to move forward when we are united as a people. And as a country, we must all be united. The choice is ours. We are the people. We must do what was done by our forebears and forefathers. They staged a crusade of the liberation of our country when the challenges had fallen upon them. And this is what I then want to end by saying to you. Hope is knocking on our doors. Hope is within us. You are the source of hope. Let us live for the change that we want. As we go to Christmas, let us do what has to be done. Perhaps Christmas might not even come. Perhaps we might not even get to February. Perhaps we might not even get to March. But let's be ready for the change that is coming. All that is required is for us to be ready and to ready ourselves. I can tell you, when all is said and done, victory is certain. Change is coming. And we must all as a people be united for it. Without asking for a signal, but be that signal. Let us all be a signal wherever we are. Because the challenges, the signs are all around us. That we must be united to move forward. Thank you very much, fellow countrymen. May God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, leadership.
If there is anybody in the crowd or in the media that wanted to ask a question or seek clarification, a few moments to do that.
Wow. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's so obvious and often that you say something and there's no question. But thank you, our members of the press. We really appreciate. And we want to thank you for continuing to cover the issues as they happen. We saw what happened. You saw what happened. The behavior of the police is unacceptable. But I can tell you that the end is nigh. We know the source of it, and we know what is happening. We'll give you details, because we know that some of the people are actually not our police officers, but people masquerading as police officers. Thank you very much. God bless you.